Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
We have an article for you today, followed by a few questions. Today's article is entitled, The End of the World is Nigh.
这个 nigh 这个字呢，就是 near in time 或者也可以是 near in place。那在这里当然是 near in time， 快要到了。
Have you considered a career in horror movies? Because damn.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to read through the article now for you. On January 24th, 2023, the Doomsday Clock, a symbolic clock created in 1947 that represents how close humanity is to global catastrophe, was set to 90 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the clock has ever been to midnight, with midnight symbolizing the end of the world, and the minute hand signifying how close humankind is currently to it. The decision to move the clock forward was largely based on the global failure to address existential threats posed by the climate crisis, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the increased risk of nuclear weapons, and the rise of disinformation. The COVID-19 pandemic has also highlighted the vulnerability of our healthcare systems and the danger of biological threats. The clock setting is determined by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists' Science and Security Board, which takes into account global issues regarding nuclear weapons, climate change, biothreats, and other current threats to humankind. The 2023 Doomsday Clock announcement reflects the lack of progress made in handling the looming threats humanity is facing. Despite the Paris Agreement on climate change and the efforts to reduce nuclear weapons, nuclear arms races continue, and the world's major powers keep on investing in weapons with the potential to cause global destruction many times over. This change in the clock is a call to action for all people to take responsibility and work towards a safer and more sustainable future. To increase the time on the Doomsday Clock and cope with global threats, we can support leaders who prioritize issues like climate change, nuclear disarmament, and cybersecurity. Additionally, we should reduce our carbon footprint, get involved in organizations focused on global peace and security, and support scientific research and evidence-based policymaking.
Okay, so on January 24th, 2023, just a few months ago, the Doomsday Clock. Nice name for a clock, by the way. Why is it the Doomsday Clock? Because they want us to be afraid. Doom is, bad things happening, and doomsday is another name for the last day of the world or the end of the world. So this is a clock measuring the end of the world. Nice. So this was a symbolic clock. It's not a real clock. It doesn't actually tick. It doesn't actually move forward. We just kind of move the hands around it every once in a while, and then, not we, but whoever does it, and then they make a little news item about it. So this clock was created in 1947. They're trying to make us understand how close humanity is to global catastrophe. Catastrophe means everything is messed up permanently and forever. So how close are we to complete destruction? They set this up in 1947. I don't know. I'm kind of interested why they did that, but partly to, get people to do something about it, I guess. I think that was probably the point.
It was the beginning of the atomic race.
Oh, okay.
Atomic bomb race between, at that time, just Russia and the United States.
Right. So at that point, the only entity that had ever set off a nuclear bomb was the United States. And so they were trying to be like, let's not have anyone else do this. Okay. So they set up this doomsday clock to remind everyone to please not do that ever again. Which so far has worked. Well, I mean, we've tested a lot of them, but have we set them off over like unsuspecting people? So far, the only one that's ever done that is the U.S. So
no, what I meant is
we've been good
many
so far.
countries now have the atomic weapons.
They have them, but have they used them? No, which is a good thing. Okay.
You betcha.
Yeah. So thank you, all you people who have nuclear bombs and did not use them. We love you. Keep doing that. Keep not using them. Okay. So this clock, which is set up to make everyone aware of our mortality as a planet, this was recently meaning on January 24th, 2023, it was set to 90 seconds to midnight. I guess the total time span of the whole clock is 1 day, symbolizing the entirety of human history would be 1 day.
Or maybe just 12 hours.
I don't know, because when you say 90 seconds to midnight, I need to know as opposed to what scale. And they're not saying that. Anyways, supposedly this 90-second midnight mean we're closer than ever to being really in trouble. Okay.
好，所以呢，在2023年的1月24日，这个末日钟的 Doomsday Clock，Doomsday 就是末日。那什么叫末日钟呢？它后面一个同位语解释一下，它是一个 symbolic clock， 一个象征性的钟，不是说真的有一个钟在那边，而是一个象征性的钟，一个象征啦。那 created 制造或者创作是在1947年弄出来的这样的一个钟。那这个钟怎么样 ？That represents 这个 that 也是指那个钟。末日钟的 represents 它代表了 how close 多么的接近 humanity is 就是人类是已经多么接近什么呢 to 所以 be close to 就是接近，所以它告诉我们说 how close humanity is to 所以人类离这个东西是多么接近呢？那离什么东西接近呢？是离 global catastrophe 是一个大灾难，这个非常大的灾难，几乎是灭绝性的灾难。所以它这个钟告诉我们，人类距离这种全球性的大灾难还有多么的近。好，那这个钟，这个句子真正的主要动词在这个地方 was set to， 它被调到什么地方？这个 set 是调整，那 to 就是到，它调到怎么样？调到午夜前的90秒钟 ，90 seconds to midnight。这个 to 也是到，就在指时间上面，就是离 midnight 还有90秒钟的意思，叫做90 seconds to midnight.
This is the closest the clock has ever been to midnight, with midnight symbolizing the end of the world and the minute hand signifying how close humankind is currently to it. So this gives us the reference point. Angela was questioning this earlier exactly, how long does, how much time does this clock have on it, and what does it represent? Well, what it represents is that the last day of humankind and most of the rest of life on this planet, Doomsday, will be represented when the minute hand, I don't even know if there's a second hand. Well, yeah, there's 90 seconds. So there's a second hand and a minute hand. When they both hit 12 o'clock, that's supposed to be the end of the world. Now, of course, thank God, it's just symbolizing this at this point in our history, but it's also warning us. It signifies how close we might be to absolute destruction.
好，所以他说 This is the closest， 这是最接近的。好 ，The clock has ever been， 这个是这个钟有史以来最接近 to midnight， 最接近午夜的一刻，也就是现在这个钟距离午夜是最近的。好，所以 the closest， 那后面有一个 to，the closest the clock has ever been to midnight， 那个 to 是跟那个 close 来的。好 ，with 这附随的状况是 midnight 午夜是 symbolizing， 象征的是 the end of the world 世界末日。然后呢 ，the minute hand 这个分针 minute hand。它是 signifying， 这个地方 signifying 跟 symbolizing 意思都差不多哈，它只是换个字而已啊。也就是说，它象征或者是 signifying， 它表示的是这个分针，表示的是 how close mankind is currently to it。目前人类距离 it 就是指 the end of the world， 目前还距离多么的近。
The decision to move the clock forward was largely based on the global failure to address existential threats.And these existential threats. Let's start from there. So to move the clock forward is to push it further forward in time. So to move it closer to midnight. So this decision was based on something. The decision was because of a reason, and the reason was the global failure to do a thing. What did we as a globe fail to do? We failed to do something significant about existential threats. What are existential threats? These are threats that threaten your survival, your existence. If you are going to die, that is an existential threat. And so we as a globe failed to address these threats. And these threats are posed by these threats happen because of what? We have several things. The climate crisis, threat number 1. We're not doing enough about the climate crisis. That's because our governments, in plural, are really not taking this seriously. And the other thing is that our corporations are more interested in making money in the short term. Number 2 existential threat is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Not only because Russia keeps using nuclear weapons into play. Russia, please do not do that, thank you. But also because the whole idea of modern times is that borders are supposed to be inviolable. The borders as they are the permanent final end borders. And we shouldn't cross them. And they did. They kind of did on purpose with a lot of guns. So that's a thing. The third thing is the increased risk of nuclear weapons. But I mean, that's bound up with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So that's kind of really the second thing. And then the fourth thing is the rise of disinformation. Disinformation is it's not misinformation. Misinformation is accidentally saying the wrong thing or accidentally telling people something that's not quite true. Disinformation is purposely lying, basically, or putting a whole bunch of information that isn't really true and isn't really fake, but just kind of makes it hard to find the real information. That's also a thing. So, we have the internet and everything, and that is great because now we can get all sorts of information we didn't have before. But now the internet, the world's library, is being filled up with a whole bunch of gunk. That gunk being disinformation. People are just for fun and profit, largely, but also for nefarious political purposes, putting up all this wrong information on the internet. It's irritating because if you have a library for the world, that could be such a cool thing. And instead, we're filling our library with garbage. Okay, so these are the 4 reasons why the people who run this clock thing decided to move the time forward to 90 seconds before midnight.
好，所以 the decision to 就是做一个决定，这个决定要做什么的决定啊，所以要做什么的决定呢？要 move the clock forward， 要把钟往前拨的这样的一个决定叫做 the decision to move the clock forward。这个决定呢 was largely based on， was mainly based on， 主要或者大部分是基于什么问题呢？基于什么事实呢？基于 the global failure to 全球的失败，就全球没有办法做到这件事情。没有办法做到什么事情呢？没有办法 address 就是处理或者面对 deal with， 因为全球都没有办法处理，没有办法面对一个 existential， 在这里呢是指跟这个生存有关的 relating to existence the threats， 所以人类现在面临的一些威胁，这些威胁是会威胁到我们的生存的，但是全球并没有好好的处理这些会使人类面临生存威胁的一些事情。那这个威胁，这个 threats 是怎么样 posed by， 是由什么造成呢？好 ，pose 就是 present 或者 constitute。那由什么造成的威胁呢？由这个4样东西。第一个 the climate crisis， 气候的这个危机，好，大家都知道。第二个威胁就是俄国侵略乌克兰，这个目前还没有办法阻止它啊，只能这个跟它抗战而已。那另外一个威胁是 the increased risk of nuclear weapons， 这个核子武器就是 increase 已经增加的一个风险，因为这个俄国一直说啊，我们有可能啊会使用核子武器，那北韩当然也会，他们也是正式已经拥有核武了，那这个也是一个问题。那第4个问题就是 the rise of disinformation 是假讯息，那各位要记得它跟 misinformation 是不一样的，英文的 misinformation 常常是无意的，它只是错误的讯息而已，但是 disinformation它是假讯息，而且有时候它根本不是真的讯息，这根本就是这个假造出来的，所以这个东西更糟糕。
The COVID-19 pandemic has also highlighted the vulnerability of our healthcare systems and the danger of biological threats. If you highlight something, you show its importance. Vulnerability is weakness. where you might suffer if you don't do something about it. Healthcare systems around the world don't seem to be enough, and we don't have a plague or a really serious international disease going around, and we still can't take care of everybody the way we would like to. And the danger of biological threats, well, again, this would be bioterrorism using viruses and other biological agents.
好，所以呢，这次 COVID-19 传染病呢，它也 highlighted， 就是凸显了 the vulnerability， 就是脆弱或者容易受到伤害的这样一个事实。所以它凸显了我们的脆弱。什么东西的脆弱呢？我们的 healthcare systems， 我们医疗保健体系的脆弱，还有它也凸显了 the danger of 就什么的危险呢？这个 biological threats， 就生物方面的威胁，也就是病菌对我们的威胁啊，它凸显出来了。
The clock's setting is determined by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board. That's a mouthful of people. So it's a science and security board that is run by atomic scientists. And the Bulletin is the magazine about it that they distribute to their members. And so this publication takes into account or considers global issues regarding nuclear weapons. So their main worry is nuclear weapons, but also climate change, biothreats, and other current threats to humankind.
好，所以呢，这个钟的 setting， 它的设定是 is determined by 由什么决定呢？由这个原子科学家公报底下的一个科学安全委员会来决定的。那 which 就是指这个科学安全委员会呢，它 takes into account 把什么列入考量呢？它把一些 global issues 一些全球的议题列入考量。那这全球的议题是怎么样的议题呢？是 regarding 是和什么有关的全球议题呢？是和 nuclear weapons 这个核子武器 climate change 气候变迁 biothreats 这个生物威胁，还有其他的 current threats 当前的一些威胁 to humankind。所以他把对人类有威胁的通通把它列入考量。
The 2023 Doomsday Clock announcement reflects the lack of progress made in handling the looming threats humanity is facing. Well, both Angela and Wesley have been listing some of these problems, so I'll let them continue.
Yeah, 好，所以这个地方呢，他说这个2023这个末日钟呢，它的这个 announcement 就它公告，我们把它调快了。这样的一个公告呢 reflects 它反映了 the lack of progress 就是缺乏进展。什么东西缺乏进展呢？那 made 它的受词就是 the lack of progress 就是缺乏实际的进展。在哪方面缺乏实际的进展呢？ And 就是在哪一方面呢？在 handling the looming threats 在处理这些逐渐笼罩我们的这些威胁。 looming 就是逐渐的笼罩我们，而且感觉起来很恐怖，从远处越来越大，把我们整个笼罩住了这样的威胁。那这些威胁是怎么样？是 humanity is facing 是人类正在面临的这些 threats， 而且这些 threats 感觉起来马上就要照到我们头顶了。
Despite the Paris Agreement on climate change and the efforts to reduce nuclear weapons. So despite these two things, nuclear arms races continue. We continue building nuclear arms and trying to see who has more. And the world's major powers keep on investing in weapons. They keep on spending money on weapons and researching new weapons and making weapons better, with the potential to cause global destruction many times over. So, yes.
If the countries with nuclear weapons would set them off, would explode, that would be the end of human life for sure, and most animal life and a good deal of plant life. But there would still be some viruses and bacteria which could survive even horrific levels of radiation, heat, and so on. But we wouldn't be around to appreciate them and urge them on.
Well, here's the thing. Like, in the past, there have been global catastrophes. Like, there was an event that created the Gulf of Mexico where a giant asteroid hit the Earth and basically pushed the atmosphere away. Like, there's pieces of dinosaurs on the moon because of this thing. So, yeah, and then, mammals survived. We're not going to survive this, but somebody is.
好，所以我们看看这个句子。他说，尽管有这个 The Paris Agreement 巴黎协定，这个是关于气候变迁的这么一个巴黎协定，还有我们尽管有 the efforts to reduce nuclear weapons， 还有我们为什么做的努力呢？ 为了 reduce nuclear weapons 为了减少核子武器所做的努力。尽管我们做了这些，但是呢 nuclear arms races continue， 但是核子武器的竞赛仍然持续当中。而且呢 the world's major powers 世界的主要大国，他们 keep on investing， 他们不断的持续的投资投资在哪方面呢？投资在武器 weapons。 什么样的武器呢？他们投资的武器是 with the potential to cause global destruction， 他们这些武器是有这个潜力the potential to 就是有什么潜力，这些武器有造成 cause global destruction 全球毁灭的这个潜力，而且不但是全球毁灭，而且是 many times over， 可以毁灭地球全球好几次，所以非常厉害。这样的武器他们仍然继续在投资，要生产，要研发。
Okay, our final paragraph. This change in the clock to 90 seconds is a call to action. They are trying to urge people to seriously consider the problems facing all people, and that we should take responsibility and work towards a safer and more sustainable future. Peace, baby.
Yeah, 所以 this change in the clock 就这个钟这样的一个改变呢 is a call to action to be a call to action 就是采取行动的一个号召，就是要召集大家采取行动。好，那这个地方是要谁采取行动呢？是 for all people， 所有的人都要采取行动来干嘛呢？ To take responsibility， 要负起责任，而且要 work towards， 要朝向什么努力呢？要朝向一个 a safer and more sustainable future 来努力，要朝向一个更安全，而且呢 more sustainable 就是更能永续发展的 future 的未来，大家一起朝这个方向努力。
And so to increase the time on our doomsday clock and also cope with or maybe reduce global threats, we can support leaders who prioritize issues like climate change, nuclear disarmament, and cybersecurity. So I guess that is the purpose of this article is kids go out there and vote. Make sure that you support the right leaders who are going to do these things.
好，所以呢 to increase 为了要增加这个末日钟上的时间因为现在只剩下90秒了，那我们如果做对一些事情的话，可能因为以前也有把它往回调的机会，也有这样的例子，所以呢我们要怎么样增加这个时间呢？一方面我们为了增加时间，一方面我们希望能够 cope with global threats， 我们要这个面对，要处理，要解决 global threats 全球的威胁。为了做到这样子的事情呢，我们可以怎么做？我们可以 support 支持 leaders领导人物那这些领导人物他们可以 prioritize 就是把什么东西列入优先，我们要支持的是能够把以下这些事情列入优先的领导人物。把什么事情列入优先呢？ issues like 像这一类的议题，例如说 climate change 一个就是气候变迁，然后 nuclear disarmament 就是核武的裁减，还有呢 cyber security 网络安全，凡是比较注意这些东西的这些领导人物呢，我们要支持他们。
Furthermore, we should reduce our carbon footprint, reduce the amount of especially CO2, get involved in organizations focused on global peace and security, further the work of many people who have tried to make the planet politically safer for everyone, and support scientific research and evidence-based policymaking. True science will reveal what we need to do and how to do it. And evidence-based policymaking is that idea of getting rid of disinformation as best we can.
好，所以 additionally 此外我们也应该要 reduce 减少我们的 carbon footprint 就是碳足迹，然后呢我们要 get involved in 我们要参与 organizations 一些组织，这些组织是 focused on global peace and security， 这些组织他们的集中的焦点努力的焦点是全球的和平 global peace， 还有呢 global security 还有全球的安全。好，我们可以加入这些组织，同时我们可以 support 我们可以支持scientific research 科学的研究，还有支持怎么样 evidence-based policy making。 evidence-based 就是以实证为基础的， policy making 就是决策。
Okay, now let's look at our 3 questions. Number 1, which of the following statements about the doomsday clock is true?
以下关于末日钟的说法哪一项是正确的？
The answer is C. It is symbolic of serious consequences that existing threats may cause.
答案是 C 它象征着现有威胁可能造成的严重后果。
And number 2, which of the following pieces of news did not play a role in the change of the time on the Doomsday Clock in 2023?
那以下哪条新闻没有对2023年末日钟的时间变化产生影响呢？这是一个素养题。
The answer is D. Achievements of humanity, sports records being broken at a rapid pace almost certainly had nothing to do with the clock.
答案是 D. 人类的成就，体育纪录正在被快速打破，这个跟末日钟一点关系都没有。
Finally, number 3. What can be inferred from the passage?
从这篇文章里面，我们可以推断出什么呢？
The answer is D. The Doomsday Clock was built to draw people's attention to the world's current threats.
答案是 D. 好，末日钟的设立是为了引起人们对世界当前威胁的关注。
Okay, we've had 4 lessons with you so far this month. We have one more right at the end of the month, and we look forward to being with you again. Till then,
Bye-bye.